So in order to understand what Amul has pulled off, let's first imagine what I refer to sometimes as a counterfactual, which is what would have happened if Amul had not been there. Well, you would have had millions of farmers with one or two cows. The cows would be surviving in near poverty-like conditions like the rest of farmers in India, feeding on sub-quality cattle feed or shreds of grass as opposed to actual grass, therefore being somewhat emaciated, as would the farmers also be emaciated, producing low-quality milk in small amounts. You would have had a little makeshift shed where the farmer would compel the cow to disgorge its milk on a daily basis, and the milk would be extremely unappetizing. There probably would not be any sanitary conditions in the barn where the milk was being removed. Forget about pasteurization in any real sense. Probably there would be a temptation to add some water into it so that more alleged milk could be sold. Then the milk would show up in little makeshift aluminum canisters to your doorstep. You would open the door and you wouldn't know what you were buying because you don't know what the farmer has done to it, and you don't know what his circumstances have been during the previous week that might compel him to contaminate it in different ways. And you would buy it because you wouldn't have any other options since everybody else would be in the same situation. And the farmer would be restricted to just sales in the immediate area. And so if the milk demand went down for some reason in that area, milk, remember, is a perishable commodity. Who knows if he would have access to cold chain to store the milk, and you might end up getting a day-old milk with all sorts of problems with that as well. Now, multiply that hundreds of millions of times, and you get the idea that this is not a good situation. Now, I'm being a little bit extreme to paint this in the most dire circumstance. Of course, in practice, a few entrepreneurs would pull together a few farmers, and there'd be some small-sized dairy farms. But in essence, none of them would be able to afford the amount of investment needed to run a modern dairy farm. None of them would be able to keep up with the research and development required for high-quality, fortified cattle feed, better fertilizers, sanitary circumstances, cold chain, what have you. And that would have been the reality had Amul not come along. So I want to turn next to how Amul came along, because that has nothing to do with milk, as it turns out, in many ways.